Reddit. The place where every billionaire is evil, every problem can be solved with more taxes, and if you so much as mention personal responsibility, you're basically labeled a fascist. We all know that Reddit leans so far left nowadays that some of these people probably need to type with their right hand just to stay balanced. So naturally, when I wanted to gauge the mood around Mark Carney's recent announcement to proceed with the liberal gun confiscation program, I turned to Reddit. I figured that would be the perfect echo chamber of guns bad and government good. But plot twist, the comments were not exactly the utopian leftist love fest I expected. In fact, it felt less like Reddit and more like a bunch of people actually making sense. Wild. And no, I didn't cherry pick these comments. I literally just scrolled down the thread. The results may surprise you, because they definitely surprised me. So without further ado, I bring you the comment section on this Mark Carney article that was posted to Our Canada on Reddit about how he is going to continue with the liberal gun ban. And spoiler alert, they basically said that legal gun owners are a huge part of the problem and we're actually part of organized crime. I shit you not. Okay, first I'm going to start off by reading the article itself. Okay, the headline: Mark Carney unveils public safety proposals, says gun buyback program will launch this year. Liberal leader Mark Carney says he will reinvigorate the gun buyback program the federal government has failed to implement over the last several years as part of the plan to crack down on organized crime and strengthen gun control in our country. Mr. Carney announced a slew of public safety measures Thursday in Brampton, Ontario, as Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre pledges tough-on-crime laws. The Liberal Party first proposed a buyback program for assault-style rifles in 2019 in their campaign, and the government says the program is expected to launch later this year after being delayed for several years. Mr. Carney also proposed to automatically revoke gun licenses for individuals convicted of violent crimes and make the RCMP responsible for classifying new guns to enter the market, rather than the gun industry. Okay, I'm just going to take a little bit of time to point out the fact that we already had things in place to revoke licenses from violent offenders, and violent offenders can't even get gun licenses in Canada. And then I'm also going to point out the fact that the RCMP is responsible for classifying guns, not the manufacturers. Shocker. The Liberal government misleading people on our gun laws. Anyway, back to the article. To crack down on organized crime, Mr. Carney pledged to recruit 1,000 more RCMP personnel and train 1,000 new Canadian Border Service Agency officers. I just want to point out that the Conservatives have been all for making the border more secure for the last 5 years, and they've got nothing but flack from the Liberals. This is total BS. This is just pandering. Everyone knows that Canada's border security is obsolete, and statistically, we only check 0.5% of everything coming in. 0.5%. 99.5% gets through unchecked. Carney is also committing to making it harder for individuals accused of violent and organized crime to get bail, particularly repeat offenders, by establishing a reverse honest provision, which shifts the burden to the accused to make the case for why they should be released. Mr. Poilievre has made tough-on-crime policies the cornerstone of his campaign, proposing on Wednesday a 3-strikes plan that would imprison repeat violent offenders for a mandatory minimum of 10 years. I just want to point out that Carney is a plagiarist. He's just plagiarizing the Conservative platform. Okay, now that we've gone through the article, I'm going to get into the comments and see exactly how Canadians feel about this issue. I'd rather he doubled down on the carbon tax and reverted to the post-2015 gun law changes, and I say that as someone who supports more restrictive firearm regulation in principle. The gun control priority needs to be stopping the smuggling from the USA. Further restrictions on legal gun ownership while illegal guns continue to cross over the border is like stuffing more insulation into an already well-insulated attic while the windows are broken and the doors don't even close. He brought on the head of the Poly-Soviet to run as an MP. No way in hell this was being scrapped. We have one of the strictest firearms programs in the world. The crime stats for firearm crimes are mostly from illegal arms acquired via the US. It will always baffle me that they doubled down on such wasteful programs. Carney could swing a good chunk of votes if he didn't keep committing to this liberal albatross. I guess it's easier to punish legal gun owners and crush local businesses than it is to actually put resources to the proper location. He assigned Natalie Provost to the program, a huge signal that the worst is yet to come for gun control. For those of you who don't know who she was at the Poly-Soviet shooting, and she's been a professional victim her entire life since. I mean, Mendocino and Chiang formerly were also brought back on this. It's just confirming what he said in a previous French speech about the bans. A horrible decision, to be honest. Bye-bye all guns. Finger guns and sticks that look like guns. This is my theory. She's going to do it piecemeal. As the saying goes, don't work your way out of a job. This is 100% true. She's made her entire career and her entire life off of hating guns. Now that she's an MP, that is not going to stop. We are not going to have any more guns if the Liberals get in. It's almost like Carney is just a new face on the same old Liberal Party. If he's as fiscally brilliant as they like to portray him, then surely he can see that this is just a fool's errand and the equivalent of burning billions and billions of dollars in a bonfire. Gun buyback is dumb, full stop. And I'm also a liberal who hates guns. You see that? This guy literally hates guns and he thinks it's a bad idea. This is where I'm at also. I just don't really see the point. Guns used in crimes are obviously illegally obtained in most cases. It's not a huge single issue for me, but it's definitely the worst of the Liberal Party's ideas. I personally don't hate guns, but I think we already have a good system in place. Yeah, it's so fucking silly, because ask yourself this. If someone gave you $1 billion to buy homes for some homeless or to buy back a bunch of random guns, which are you going to pick? Most people would pick helping the homeless, but some ideologues out there would pick banning the guns. The government is ideologues listening to ideologues. You can still dislike guns without wetting your pants the moment the poly nut jobs show an AR-15 and call it a weapon of mass destruction made for war. Yup, the biggest issue for me is stopping illegal guns from crossing the border. I'm usually in favor of parallel policies, targeting different aspects of an issue, because few problems have a silver bullet solution, but the legal guns have generally not been an issue for Canadian society. Why is he still going through with this stupid, overreaching program? He's ahead in the polls. The last thing he needs to do is continue Trudeau's legacy, because this is the Liberal platform. It's just ideological. The Liberal Party has always been that way since the 1980s. They've just been rapidly accelerating their timetable in the past decade. This has always been the plan. He's pandering to the city-dwelling liberals who think that guns are just a useless thing of the past that can only do harm. Which is insane, because I genuinely don't believe anybody cares as much as the LPC thinks we do. I was in favor of a liberal minority before due to Trump, but now I'm hoping they just get the minority government. Legal guns aren't Canada's problem, Carney. Jesus fucking Christ. The last thing he needs to do is continue Trudeau's legacy. Carney has made it very clear that he intends to carry on Trudeau's mandate as per usual, whether it's maintaining many of the same poor performers in cabinet or policies like this. Why are we doing this? It's a waste of everybody's time and money. The government can't buy back what it never owned. They should call it what it is, confiscation with compensation. They should also abandon it completely, because it won't do anything to curb gun violence except for waste money that would be better spent addressing the root causes of violence. Carney is making a mistake here. The word compensation is doing a lot of work here, and I haven't even seen values that remotely reflect what these arms are actually worth. I agree. I did not buy my rifles illegally. They were bought legally, and they were not on the ban list. So they're going to give me $3,000 for my rifles? Because it's not going anywhere as far as I'm concerned. Just a little insight. They banned a bunch of rifles, and then they told the public there is plenty of other rifles that you could use that are still legal, and then when people started buying those, they banned them. Every couple months, they just ban another list. Big surprise, the leader of the party who gives anti-gun lobby money, lets the anti-gun lobby members run under the party banner, is anti-gun? Too bad the dude lacks the courage to be the first on the stack. It's the same Liberals, LMAO. The fact that they're polling so well just shows how clueless Canadian voters are. You deserve the government you get. Fuck your wages, standard of living, housing costs, public safety, and economy. It's the virtue signaling and socialism of corporations that truly matters. The oligarchs and their media machines have hijacked political consciousness of the working class. For the Liberal supporters, Carney came out and said that gun owners were a large part of the problem. All evidence points to the contrary, so he's just spouting the same BS rhetoric Trudeau and his team used to use. BS rhetoric? You mean blatantly lying to us? It's not lying when they believe it to be true. The air is thin up there in their ivory towers. Buying legally owned and operated firearms from law-abiding Canadian citizens is the most ridiculous stance a politician can take. Violent crime with a firearm in Canada accounts for less than 3% of all violent crime. And how many of those related crimes are committed by illegally owned firearms? Next to none. This is a magic trick. The LPC is just manufacturing a problem and wasting all of our taxpayers' money to solve it. I don't own a gun, and I will likely never own a gun, but I feel like this might not be the right time for those that do to want to give theirs up, aka, this is a bad policy to back. We will never want our property stolen by the government. It's not a buyback. They never owned my guns. It's confiscation with some compensation. The Liberals really need to drop this bullshit rhetoric. There will be mass non-compliance on this, I guarantee. I'd not comply if all my newly prohibited guns hadn't fallen off my boat during my last hunting trip. It's funny because everyone applauded him for scrapping the carbon tax because it was supposedly a tactical move, taking away the talking points as it were, and yet here he is willfully giving the CPC talking points. I don't understand the strategy and I'm starting to have doubts if there even is one. Honest question, who wants this? Is there even a case for it at all? Ideologues, that's the only people who want this. There's always a handful of people who think legal gun owners are effectively criminals and conflate gun ownership with political party standing. Even look inside this post, there's already people screeching about assault-style weapons and crime as a crutch. As a percentage of Canadian public, like 2%. Politics hinges on deference, not active support. Gun control is something that animates minorities on both sides of the issue, but on balance, most Liberal voters don't per se dislike the party on that issue, so they power on. Polls show majority support actually, but they all use the propaganda term of assault weapon in the poll. Sus. Let's waste another billion like last time. What the fuck? We probably could have actually stopped some gun violence by utilizing all the time and money spent and going to be spent on this and used it to stop gun smuggling from the US instead. Imagine if we spent billions on border control, social services, and healthcare, it would have a much more tangible impact on crime. With the amount of guns they added to the ban list in recent years, I would guess it's about $5 billion plus in government spending. Don't forget the billions in revenue lost from taxes paid by Canadian manufacturers, suppliers, stores, ammunition sales, etc. Yes, how can we forget all that? This all coming from the pragmatic economic banker here to lead our country into bankruptcy. Just when he was starting to win me over, he shows that he's the same old Liberals. Massive misstep. Exact same feeling here. Same old Liberals after all. Back to the blue I go. Your first mistake was believing anything that Mark Carneys said. Read his book if you're curious on how much of a ghoul he really is. I don't doubt you're correct, but unfortunately, I see all the options as being ghouls. It's just a decision which ghoul is lesser of the evils. I would say I'm not voting for the ghoul willing to spend billions of taxpayer dollars on ineffective policies. Carney is off the table. I hope you're not alone. Pierre is okay, he's just very uncool. I'd recommend an open-minded look at him and his policy, which is by far the best for the working class, since he doesn't want to break us under more tax. On the surface, until they do the regular conservative thing of privatizing everything that isn't nailed down, while increasing deficit spending to give tax breaks to giant multi-millionaire companies and busting unions. My favorite part of the press conference was when MC insinuated that legal Canadian gun owners were a large part of the problem when it came to gun crime. Well, just as ignorant as the last Liberal leader, it would seem. The government, it can be argued, is the larger part of the problem when it comes to gun crime than legal gun owners in Canada. Didn't they already waste billions on this, with no results? Give it up already. 100 million, but yeah, it's predicted to cost billions. Billions before the cost of the infrastructure needed. RCMP and Canada Post aren't equipped to handle it. Yep, that's why Canada Post told JT to fuck off, and I hope they tell Carney to fuck right off as well. If you count the LGR, it was already a few billion, but yes, the program has already cost 100 million without even actually doing a single thing. Big mistake. This is a misstep and does not align with his claimed fiscal values. Wow, you're telling me that swapping one dude and leaving the rest of the party unchanged results in a party dedicated to more of the same? Well, slap my ass and call me Sue. Who would have seen this coming? I watched the announcement live on CP24. Carney basically blamed licensed gun owners for the increase in violent crime and is targeting legal gun owners with yellow and red flag laws, claiming it would leave it up to the experts in the RCMP to classify guns as assault style. Funny, the Liberals have completely ignored every expert when crafting these laws, and it seems to be doing the same thing again. Same old Liberals. He also doubled down on the moronic idea of using Canada Post to collect these firearms, despite CP saying, fuck that. Yeah, I've had 3 non-restricted rifles banned after the Ordering Council. After they told me just buy the guns that are legal, I did, and you banned those too. Yep, party hasn't changed one bit. It's stupidity. Doubling down on taking your uncle's hunting rifle while doing nothing about violent crime, going to spend billions trying to buy back maybe a fraction of the guns that are now prohibited in the country, only for the Conservatives to come in eventually and dismantle it. We've all seen this before with the Liberal gun registry. They spent $2 billion, lined up the pockets of their consultant buddies, then the cons came in and wiped it out. This does seem like a massive misstep. Agreed. As someone who's already pretty on the fence about voting Liberal, I hunt and shoot competitively. I've already had 6,000 in guns banned, all in the initial OAC. Guns that were all non-restricted, and I was following the law. They just changed the list at random, so much for just buying the guns that are legal. I fucking did. It wasn't just buy the guns that are legal, it was way worse than that. The Trudeau government said Canadian firearms manufacturers could and should provide compliant alternatives. The Canadian manufacturers did, at considerable expense, and all of them have since been banned. Laugh my ass off. This has tipped the scales for me, to be honest. I have a hard time buying the smart economist line while he wastes billions on this and destroys an industry and community that generates tax revenue in Canada. Now, it's not the only thing, but this is the one that also showcases business as usual to me. They already have the NDP voters. If he was pragmatic on this file, I could see further alignment to the people that may otherwise vote Conservative. Why they are doubling down on this, I am not sure. I'm a pro-gun NDP voter, and this doesn't exactly make me want to vote Liberal. This makes me want to not vote. Same here on all counts. Because Carney isn't all that pragmatic. He's a rather silly banker who thinks that banning guns is somehow a good economic political investment. Neither is true. Wasting billions of dollars on a buyback program helps nobody, well, except the anti-gun ideologues who think that banning guns helps people. It does not. Same old Liberal team, man. It's probably the best announcement this week for Conservatives. I don't know why the Liberals just won't admit that this is a stupid idea and a complete waste of money. They want to rebrand as being more financially competent, and canceling this would be a great way to show that they are making steps to improve that, and their direction changes are more than just words. You're surprised that the Liberals are going ahead with something they've promised thousands of times over the last 10 years? Yes, there were other promises they didn't keep. I think it's a bad sign when we start voting for a party based on the promises they don't keep, as if that's a good thing. Most of their other promises, they canceled 2 of their signature policies, the carbon tax and the capital gains tax. Why not this? Firearms issues are a fundraising goldmine for both parties. May not sway a lot of votes one way or the other, but both make absolute killings fundraising off of them. It is 100% the biggest reason I'm voting Conservative. I'm pretty sure the catch and release justice system is a bigger danger to public safety than guns. So much for outsider. Garbage. I've been very skeptical of the leadership change. These decisions are just reaffirming my suspicions. Okay, so there you have it, folks. This is going to be the biggest election in Canadian gun owner history. Make sure you get out and vote CPC. It's the only chance we're going to keep our guns. If you're feeling my lighthearted commentary on why you should be voting Conservative in the next election, then consider giving me a like and subscribe, and stay tuned for my next video. Until next time, peace.